Maya Richardson stood in front of her full-length mirror, adjusting the golden straps of her floor-length black dress. At 32, she had mastered the art of preparing for these high-society events. The annual Chicago Children's Education Foundation Gala was one of the biggest charity events of the year, and as a partner at Anderson and Hughes law firm, her presence was expected. She touched the small crystal pendant around her neck, a gift from her grandmother who had always told her to keep her head high no matter what life threw at her. Those words had become her strength over the past 10 years. The grand ballroom of the Riverside Hotel sparkled with crystal chandeliers and the jewelry of Chicago's elite. Maya moved through the crowd with practiced ease, exchanging polite smiles and brief conversations with familiar faces. Her assistant had briefed her about potential clients attending tonight, and she kept mental notes of whom to approach. "Maya, you look stunning." Jessica Chen, her colleague from the firm, approached with 2 champagne glasses. "Here, you'll need this. The Morrison contract negotiations were brutal this week." Maya accepted the glass gratefully. "Thanks, Jess. Did you see Mr. Patterson? I heard he's looking to switch firms." "He's by the—" Jessica's voice trailed off, her eyes fixing on something behind Maya. The sudden change in her friend's expression made Maya's stomach tighten. "What is it?" Maya turned, following Jessica's gaze. Time seemed to stop. Across the room, standing near the stage in a perfectly tailored black suit, was Marcus Bennett. The same Marcus who had disappeared from her life 10 years ago without a proper goodbye. Only now, he wasn't the struggling entrepreneur with big dreams and empty pockets. He was Marcus Bennett, the tech billionaire whose face had been on Forbes magazine just last month. Maya's hand tightened around the champagne glass. She had seen him in news articles and social media, watching from a distance as he built his empire. But seeing him in person, merely 50 feet away, made her feel like she was 22 again, sitting in their favorite coffee shop at Howard University, dreaming about their future together. "Did you know he would be here?" Jessica whispered, sensing her friend's tension. Maya shook her head slightly. "No, She took a deep breath, straightening her shoulders. "It doesn't matter. He's probably just another donor." But even as she said those words, Marcus turned, and their eyes met across the crowded room. Recognition flashed across his face, followed by something else, surprise, perhaps regret. Maya couldn't tell. She had lost the ability to read him years ago. For a moment, neither moved. The room continued its busy chatter around them, but Maya felt trapped in a bubble of past memories. Late-night study sessions, shared dreams, stolen kisses between classes, and then, the emptiness he left behind. Marcus took a step in her direction, but was interrupted by an elderly board member who began speaking to him animatedly. Maya used this moment to turn away, her heart pounding. "I need some air," she said to Jessica, placing her barely touched champagne on a passing waiter's tray. "Want me to come with you?" "No, I'm fine, just need a minute." Maya walked with measured steps toward the terrace, refusing to rush, refusing to show any sign of distress. The cool evening air helped clear her head. Chicago's skyline sparkled before her, reminding her of everything she had achieved on her own. Partner at 32, mentor to young black law students, board member of 2 nonprofits, she had built this life brick by brick, turning the pain of abandonment into fuel for her ambitions. "Maya." His voice, deeper than she remembered, came from behind her. She didn't turn around immediately, using the moment to compose herself, to remember who she was now, not the heartbroken college senior he had left behind, but a successful woman who had surpassed even her own expectations. When she finally turned, she met his gaze with professional coolness. "Hello, Marcus. Congratulations on your recent success. The tech world must be treating you well." The words came out perfectly poised, practiced, as if she was addressing any other business acquaintance. But they both knew better. They both knew that this unexpected encounter was about to change everything. Again. That night, after the gala, Maya couldn't sleep. She sat in her apartment's living room, still wearing her evening gown, staring at an old photo album she hadn't opened in years. The memories she had locked away came flooding back as she turned each page. Howard University, fall 2013. Maya had been rushing to her business law class, arms full of books, when she literally ran into Marcus Bennett. Her books went flying everywhere, and while other students walked past, he stopped to help her pick them up. She remembered how he smiled, showing a small gap between his front teeth that made him look boyish despite his confident demeanor. "You're in Professor Williams' business law class too?" he had asked, handing her the last book. "Yes, trying not to be late on the first day," she had replied, straightening her shirt. "Mind if I walk with you? I'm Marcus." That simple meeting had changed everything. Maya smiled sadly at a photo of them at the campus coffee shop, their usual study spot. Marcus would sit there for hours, working on business plans on his old laptop while she prepared for her LSAT. They pushed each other to dream bigger, to work harder. "You're going to be the fiercest lawyer in Chicago," he used to tell her, massaging her shoulders when she was stressed about exams. "And you're going to revolutionize the tech world," she would reply, believing in him completely. Maya turned another page, finding a picture from the night Marcus got his first big break. They had celebrated at a small Ethiopian restaurant near campus. He was so excited he could hardly sit still, explaining his app idea to her for the 100th time. "It's going to change how people connect, Maya," he had said, his eyes bright with passion. "These investors, they see it too. They're offering seed funding." She remembered how proud she felt, how they had talked about their future until the restaurant closed. That was just 2 weeks before her law school acceptance letter arrived, 2 weeks before everything fell apart. The memory of that day still stung. Maya had rushed to Marcus's apartment, clutching her acceptance letter, ready to celebrate. But something was different. He was distant, distracted, making excuses about investor meetings. 3 days later, he was gone. No proper goodbye, just a short note. "I'm sorry. I have to do this on my own. Please don't try to find me." Maya closed the album, walking to her kitchen to pour a glass of water. The city lights twinkled through her window, so different from their college days when they shared dreams in a cramped dorm room. She had found out later through mutual friends that Marcus had moved to Silicon Valley. She watched from afar as his startup grew, first into a small success, then into a tech giant. Her phone buzzed with a text. It was Jessica. "You okay? Want to talk about what happened at the gala?" Maya typed back, "I'm fine. Just processing." But she wasn't fine. Seeing Marcus had brought back memories of not just their love, but their friendship. How they would spend Sunday afternoons in the library, sharing one set of earphones while studying. The time they organized a fundraiser for the Black Student Union, working late into the night to make it perfect. The way he would leave sticky notes with encouraging messages in her textbooks. She walked to her home office, looking at her law degree hanging on the wall. Next to it was a newspaper clipping from when she made partner, the youngest in her firm's history and the first black woman to do so. She had achieved everything they had talked about back then, maybe even more. Maya picked up her phone again, opening her social media. Marcus's company page was filled with photos from tech conferences and charity events. In every picture, he looked successful, confident, exactly what he had always wanted to be. But she remembered the Marcus who would fall asleep on his textbooks, who wore the same 3 shirts all semester, who believed in his dreams even when nobody else did. "Why did you really leave?" she whispered to the empty room, knowing that after 10 years, she might finally get her answer, whether she wanted it or not. Monday morning came too quickly. Maya walked into her office at Anderson and Hughes, coffee in hand, trying to push thoughts of the gala away. She had just settled at her desk when her office phone rang. It was Sarah, her secretary. "Ms. Richardson, Mr. Anderson wants to see you in the conference room. He says it's urgent." Maya found her boss sitting with the other partners, all looking unusually serious. Her heart skipped a beat when she saw the folder on the table, Bennett Tech's logo clearly visible. "Maya, please sit down," Mr. Anderson said, gesturing to an empty chair. "Bennett Technologies is interested in working with us. They want to expand their legal team in Chicago, and they've specifically requested you to handle their corporate affairs." The room went quiet. Everyone knew this could be the biggest client of the year. What they didn't know was the history between Maya and the company's CEO. "Their representative will be here at 11, another partner added. This could be huge for the firm." Maya kept her face neutral, years of courtroom experience helping her hide her emotions. "Of course, I'll prepare for the meeting." Back in her office, Maya quickly called Jessica. "Did you know about this?" "I just heard." "Maya, this is huge. But are you okay with it? After everything?" Maya looked at her reflection in the office window. I have to be. This is business. At exactly 11, Sarah knocked on her door. They're here. Maya walked to the conference room, her heels clicking against the marble floor. She had chosen her sharpest navy suit today, armor against whatever was coming. But instead of Marcus, she found a young woman waiting. Hello, I'm Lisa Chen, head of legal operations at Bennett Tech. The woman smiled, extending her hand. Mr. Bennett speaks very highly of your work. They spent the next hour discussing contract terms. Maya was professional, thorough, asking all the right questions. Just as the meeting was wrapping up, Lisa's phone buzzed. Oh, Mr. Bennett is actually in the building. He'd like to join us if you have a few more minutes. Before Maya could respond, the conference room door opened. Marcus walked in, wearing a casual black sweater that probably cost more than her first car. He looked different in daylight, more real, less like the ghost from her memories. Maya, he said simply, thank you for taking this meeting. Mr. Bennett, she replied, keeping her voice steady. We were just finishing up. Actually, I hoped we could discuss the mentorship program. He sat down, pulling out some papers. We're launching a tech education initiative for underprivileged youth here in Chicago. I remember how passionate you were about mentoring. Maya felt a flutter of surprise. She had mentioned her mentoring work in exactly one interview for a small legal magazine last year. You must have read it. The program needs legal oversight, Marcus continued. We want to make sure these kids are protected, their interests secured. There's no one I trust more for this than you. The compliment hung in the air between them. Maya could feel Lisa watching their interaction with curiosity. Send over the details, Maya said finally. My team will review them. As they wrapped up the meeting, Maya noticed Marcus lingering. When Lisa stepped out to take a call, he spoke quietly. I know this is unexpected, but I've followed your career, Maya. What you've done for young black lawyers in Chicago, it's impressive. Is that why you chose our firm? She asked directly. Because of our past. I chose this firm because you're the best, he replied. The fact that we have history, that's something we'll have to navigate professionally. Maya gathered her papers, buying time to steady her voice. Well, Mr. Bennett, welcome to Anderson and Hughes. My assistant will set up regular meetings to discuss the mentorship program. She walked to her office, closing the door behind her. Through the glass walls, she could see Marcus being led to the elevator by Lisa. Just before the doors closed, he looked in her direction. Maya sat down at her desk, opening her laptop. She had 3 other cases needing her attention, a lunch meeting with a client, and 2 interviews with potential junior associates. She couldn't let this development derail her schedule. But as she tried to focus on her emails, one thought kept nagging at her. This was only the beginning. 2 weeks had passed since Bennett Tech became a client. Maya was working late one evening, reviewing documents for the mentorship program, when a soft knock interrupted her concentration. Marcus stood in her office doorway, holding 2 coffee cups. Your assistant mentioned you still take your coffee black, he said, placing 1 cup on her desk. Some habits don't change. Maya looked at the coffee, then at him. Why are you really here, Marcus? He sat in the chair across from her desk, loosening his tie. The gesture reminded her of their college days, when he would study for hours in uncomfortable clothes just to look professional at investor meetings. I owe you an explanation, he said quietly, about why I left 10 years ago. Maya's hands tightened around her pen. It's ancient history. Is it? Marcus leaned forward. Because every time we're in a meeting, I can feel the weight of it between us. The mentorship program is too important to let our past affect it. She put down her pen, finally meeting his eyes. Fine, talk. Marcus took a deep breath. Remember my first meeting with West Coast Ventures, when they offered the seed funding? Maya nodded. How could she forget? It was the beginning of the end. What I didn't tell you was what happened after the formal meeting. James Wilson, their lead investor, took me aside. He said I had potential, but... Marcus paused, his voice tight. He said I needed to focus entirely on the business. No distractions, no commitments. He specifically mentioned you. Me? Maya's voice was barely a whisper. He said investors wouldn't take me seriously if I was, quote, playing house with my college girlfriend. that I needed to show complete dedication to the company. Marcus ran a hand over his face. He told me about other promising startups that failed because the founders couldn't separate personal life from business. Maya stood up, walking to her office window. The city lights blurred as she processed his words. "You could have told me," she said finally. "We could have figured it out together." I was 23, Maya. Scared, insecure. Marcus joined her at the window. "I had nothing to offer you. You were headed to law school, destined for greatness. I was a guy with a dream and $50,000 in student loans. So you made the decision for both of us." Maya turned to face him. "Do you know what that did to me?" I questioned everything. Every memory, every promise. "I know." His voice cracked slightly. "I watched your career from afar. Every achievement, every milestone. There were so many times I wanted to reach out, to explain. But the more successful I became, the harder it got. How could I tell you I chose money over us?" Maya walked back to her desk, needing distance. "And now? Why tell me this now?" "Because I built everything they said I needed to build. I became everything they said I needed to be." Marcus stayed by the window. "But success feels hollow when you hurt someone you love to achieve it." The word love hung in the air between them. Maya picked up the coffee cup, needing something to do with her hands. "The day you got your law school acceptance," Marcus continued, "I had already signed the papers with West Coast Ventures. They were moving me to California the following week. I couldn't bear to see the joy in your eyes, knowing I was about to destroy everything." "So you left a note," Maya said flatly. 10 years of silence because some investor told you to choose." "I'm not asking for forgiveness, Maya. I just thought you deserved to know the truth." Marcus moved toward the door. "I'll have Lisa handle the mentorship program meetings from now on, if you prefer." Maya watched him reach for the door handle. "Marcus." He turned. "I have a meeting tomorrow about the program's legal framework. Don't send Lisa." She sat back down at her desk, picking up her pen. "We're professionals. We can handle this." Marcus nodded, understanding what she wasn't saying. They couldn't change the past, but maybe they could build something new, something professional, something careful, something that honored who they had become. Maya sat in the crowded courtroom, her face showing no emotion as she listened to the testimony. Across the aisle, Marcus sat with his legal team, his usual confident smile replaced by concern. Neither of them had expected to end up here, facing each other as opponents. It had started 3 weeks ago. A small tech company, run by a young black woman named Aisha Jackson, had approached Maya's firm with evidence that Bennett Tech had stolen her code for their new educational app, the same app meant to help underprivileged youth. Maya had tried to pass the case to another partner, but Aisha insisted. "I researched you, Ms. Richardson. You understand what it's like being a black woman in tech. You're the only one I trust with this." Now, watching Aisha on the witness stand explaining how she had developed the code during her time as an intern at Bennett Tech, Maya felt the weight of her decision. She stood up for cross-examination. "Ms. Jackson, could you explain to the court exactly when you developed this code?" Aisha's testimony was clear and compelling. Maya presented document after document, showing the development timeline. She could feel Marcus watching her, seeing firsthand the lawyer she had become. During the lunch break, Marcus caught up with her in the courthouse hallway. "Maya, we need to talk," he said quietly. She led him to an empty conference room. "Make it quick. I have witnesses to prep." "Drop the case," he said. "Please, you don't understand what's at stake." Maya felt her temper rise. "What's at stake? A young black woman's intellectual property is at stake. Everything she worked for. The mentorship program will fall apart if we lose this. Thousands of kids will lose their opportunity." "Then you should have thought about that before using stolen code," Maya replied sharply. Marcus ran his hands through his hair in frustration. "I didn't know. The development team. They must have." He stopped, looking at her directly. "You're really good at this, you know. Better than I imagined." "Did you think I was just playing lawyer all these years?" "No," he said softly. "I always knew you'd be exceptional. I just never thought you'd be exceptional against me." Maya gathered her files. "This isn't personal, Marcus. This is business." Back in court, Maya presented her final witness, a software engineer who had worked on both projects. His testimony showed clear evidence that Aisha's code had been copied. Marcus' legal team fought hard, but Maya was better prepared. She had spent nights building this case, making sure every detail was perfect. When she gave her closing argument, she spoke about innovation, integrity, and the responsibility of big companies to protect young talent, not exploit it. The judge's decision came 2 days later. Aisha won full rights to her code, plus damages. Outside the courthouse, she hugged Maya tightly. "Thank you for believing in me," Aisha said, tears in her eyes. Maya watched her celebrate with her family, remembering her own dreams at that age. She felt Marcus approach before she saw him. "Congratulations," he said. "A well-deserved win." "What will happen to the mentorship program?" she asked, still watching Aisha. "We'll rebuild it. The right way this time." He paused. "Actually, I was hoping you'd help with that. Not as our lawyer, but as a partner. Your experience, your integrity, that's what the program needs." Maya finally turned to look at him. His expression was different now, not the polished CEO or the charming ex-boyfriend, but something more real. "I'll think about it," she said. "That's more than I deserve." He smiled slightly. "You know, watching you in there, it reminded me of all those times you argued with our business law professor. You always fought for what was right, no matter what." Maya felt a small smile tug at her lips. Some things don't change. As she walked to her car, Maya realized something had shifted between them. The past was still there, but now they had seen each other as they truly were, not just who they had been or who they had become, but who they were choosing to be. 1 month after the court case, Maya found herself in a small community center on Chicago's South Side. She had agreed to help rebuild Bennett Tech's mentorship program, but with conditions. Today was their first official event. The room buzzed with energy as 30 high school students listened to Marcus talk about his journey from a kid who couldn't afford a computer to a tech CEO. Maya watched from the back, noticing how he skipped the fancy business talk and spoke directly to them, sharing real struggles and failures. "And now," Marcus said, "I'd like to introduce someone special. Maya Richardson isn't just a brilliant lawyer. She's living proof that with hard work and determination, you can break through any ceiling." Maya walked to the front, surprised by his introduction. She hadn't prepared a speech, but looking at the young faces, especially the girls, she knew exactly what to say. 10 years ago," she began, "I was a law student drowning in textbooks and doubt. People told me there weren't many black women partners in big law firms. They were right, so I became one." The students laughed, and Maya felt herself relaxing. She shared stories about late nights studying, about proving herself over and over, about helping other young black lawyers navigate a system not built for them. After the talk, they split the students into small groups. Maya moved between tables, answering questions about law school and internships. She noticed Marcus doing the same, teaching basic coding on laptops they provided. Ms. Richardson, a quiet girl named Keisha, approached her. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "How do you work with Mr. Bennett now? After everything?" At Maya's surprised look, she added, "We all Googled you both. The internet has receipts." Maya smiled at the modern phrase. "Life isn't simple, Keisha. Sometimes people hurt you, sometimes they grow, and sometimes you grow too. The trick is knowing the difference." Later, as they packed up, Marcus handed Maya a coffee. "Just like old times," he said, "except now we're the ones giving advice instead of needing it." They sat in the empty classroom, both tired but satisfied. Through the window, they could see some students still hanging around outside, excitedly discussing their new laptops. "You're different with them," Maya observed. "More real than the CEO I see in meetings." "They remind me of myself," Marcus admitted. "All that potential, just needing a chance." He paused. "Like when Professor Williams saw potential in me, or when you believed in my crazy app idea. Your ideas weren't crazy. You just took a painful route to achieve them." Marcus nodded slowly. "I've been thinking about that a lot. About choices, consequences." He turned to face her. "Working with you these past weeks, seeing how you mentor these kids, I realized what I gave up wasn't just our relationship, it was our partnership." Maya sipped her coffee, remembering their college dreams of changing the world together. "We're building something good here, though. Different from what we planned, but important." Maya, Marcus started, then stopped as his phone buzzed. A message from his board about an urgent matter. Go, she said, understanding. CDO duties call, I'll finish up here. But Marcus didn't move. Instead, he turned off his phone. They can wait. These moments, these conversations, I'd missed too many of them already. Maya felt something shift in her chest. The Marcus she'd known in college would have rushed to answer that message. This Marcus was choosing differently. They spent the next hour talking about the program's future, sharing ideas like they used to in their college coffee shop. Maya suggested legal workshops for the students' parents. Marcus talked about expanding to more schools. As the sun set outside, casting long shadows through the classroom windows, both realized they were rediscovering not just who they had been, but who they could be together, older, wiser, and maybe ready to build something new. Dinner? Marcus asked simply as they finally packed up the last laptops. Maya looked at him for a long moment. Just dinner, she said firmly. As colleagues. Of course, he agreed, but they both heard the unspoken possibility in their words. Sometimes rediscovery happens slowly, one careful step at a time. The headline flashed across Maya's computer screen. Bennett Tech's new healthcare app faces major lawsuit. Her phone started ringing immediately. It was Jessica. Have you seen the news? Your name is all over this case. Maya had more than seen it. She had spent the last week preparing for it. Her firm was representing a group of small black-owned healthcare clinics claiming Bennett Tech's new medical app would put them out of business. I can't talk about it, Jess, Maya said quietly. But you and Marcus, I thought things were getting better. Maya glanced at the framed photo on her desk from last month's mentorship program graduation. She stood next to Marcus, both of them surrounded by smiling students. After 3 months of working together on the program, they had fallen into a comfortable rhythm. Weekly dinners had become normal, though they still called them colleague meetings. But now this. Her office door opened, and Sarah poked her head in. Mr. Bennett is here to see you. Marcus walked in, looking more serious than she'd seen him since the court case. He closed the door behind him. You're leading the case against us, he said. It wasn't a question. Marcus. These clinics don't understand. Our app will make healthcare more accessible to everyone. It's not about putting them out of business. It's about evolution. Maya stood up. Those clinics have served their communities for generations. They provide personalized care that an app can't replace. Your technology would force them to either buy into your expensive system or lose patients. We can work something out, Marcus said, moving closer to her desk. I'll create a special pricing tier for small clinics. We'll offer training, support. That's not enough. Then what do you want? His voice rose slightly. Tell me how to fix this, Maya. I can't lose you again. The words hummed between them. Maya felt her heart tighten. This isn't about us, she said softly. This is about right and wrong, just like the code theft case. Marcus ran his hands through his hair in frustration. The board is pressuring me. Our investors want this app launched next month. They're talking about replacing me if I don't deliver. Maya remembered his story about leaving her because of investor pressure. So what will you choose this time? He looked at her for a long moment. I need time to think. The next week passed in a blur of legal preparations. Maya worked late every night, building her case. The mentorship program meetings felt tense, though they both tried to hide it from the students. Then, on Sunday morning, Maya's phone buzzed with a news alert. She nearly dropped it when she read the headline. Bennett Tech CEO announces major change to healthcare app launch. In a press conference, Marcus had announced a complete overhaul of the app's business model. Instead of competing with existing clinics, Bennett Tech would partner with them, providing free technology and training. The clinics would maintain their independence while gaining access to modern tools. Maya's phone rang. It was Marcus. Turn on Channel 7, he said when she answered. She did, just in time to see him speaking at the press conference. 10 years ago, I made a choice that hurt someone I cared about because I listened to investors instead of my conscience. I won't make that mistake again. This company will grow the right way, by lifting up communities, not replacing them. Maya sat down on her couch, stunned. The board is furious. Marcus continued on the phone. They're calling an emergency meeting tomorrow. I might lose everything I built. Are you okay? She asked. Honestly, I feel better than I have in years. He paused. Maya, can we talk? Not as colleagues. Not about work. She thought about all they had been through, the pain, the growth, the rediscovery. Come over, she said. We can order from that Ethiopian place like old times. As she hung up, Maya realized that sometimes the biggest tests weren't about winning or losing cases. They were about choosing who you wanted to be, even when it cost you everything. 6 months had passed since Marcus's decision about the healthcare app. Maya stood in front of her mirror, adjusting her dress for another charity gala, the same one where she had first seen Marcus again. So much had changed since then. The board hadn't fired Marcus, but they had made things difficult. Some investors pulled out, the stock price dropped, and gossip magazines had a field day with stories about the failing tech billionaire. Through it all, Marcus stayed focused on what mattered, rebuilding his company the right way. Maya grabbed her clutch and headed to her car. This time, she wasn't going to the gala alone. Marcus was waiting outside her building, looking handsome in his tuxedo, but wearing a nervous smile. Ready? He asked, opening the car door for her. Are you? She replied. This would be their first public appearance as a couple. The past months had been a careful dance of rebuilding trust. They took things slowly, spending time with the mentorship program students, having long talks over coffee, and gradually letting their walls down. Maya had watched Marcus transform from the CEO who chased success at any cost into a leader who valued impact over profit. At the gala, heads turned as they walked in together. Maya spotted Jessica, who gave her a thumbs up from across the room. The whispers were inevitable. The tech billionaire and the lawyer who had opposed him in court, now together. Ms. Richardson, an excited voice called out. It was Keisha, one of their mentorship students, wearing a volunteer badge. Mr. Bennett. I got the internship at the law firm. Maya hugged the young girl. I knew you would. Your application essay was perfect. And how's the coding course going? Marcus asked. I'm top of the class, Keisha beamed. Just like you said, Ms. Richardson, we can do both tech and law. After Keisha left, Marcus led Maya to a quiet corner of the ballroom. Remember last year? I saw you from across this room and thought I'd lost you forever. You had, Maya said honestly. That Maya was gone, but maybe we both needed to become different people to find each other again. Marcus took her hand. I have something to show you. He pulled out his phone and showed her an email. It was from a major tech magazine, announcing their annual awards. Bennett Tech had won Most Innovative Social Impact for their work with small healthcare clinics. The board meeting tomorrow will be interesting, he smiled. Turns out doing the right thing can also be good business. I'm proud of you, Maya said softly. I'm proud of us, he replied. The mentorship program, the clinic partnerships, none of it would work without you. You make me better, Maya. You always did. They walked out onto the same terrace where they had their first conversation after 10 years apart. The Chicago skyline sparkled before them, but this time the air felt different, full of possibility instead of pain. I've been thinking, Marcus said, turning to face her. The mentorship program is expanding to 5 more cities. We'll need someone to oversee the legal education component. Someone who understands both the law and the importance of lifting up our community. Maya raised an eyebrow. Are you offering me a job, Mr. Bennett? No, he laughed. I'm offering you a partnership. Equal say, equal control. No more choices between love and success. We build it together this time. Maya looked at him, really looked at him. She saw the boy from Howard who dreamed big, the man who lost his way chasing those dreams, and the leader he had become. But most importantly, she saw their future. Together, she agreed, reaching for his hand. From inside, they could hear the gala continuing. Soon they would go back in, face the cameras and questions. There would be challenges ahead, merging their successful but separate lives, balancing power dynamics, keeping their professional integrity while nurturing their personal relationship. But standing there on the terrace, they both knew something fundamental had changed. They weren't the same people who fell in love in college, or even the same people who reconnected at last year's gala. They were better versions of themselves, stronger, wiser, and finally ready to build a future that honored both their dreams and their love. Shall we? Marcus asked, gesturing toward the ballroom. Maya smiled, squeezing his hand. We shall, together.